He hugged me, and we kissed each other again and again. His beauty, tenderness, and tender moments. How can I ever be sincerely grateful for such a husband? This day was the happiest in my life. So the queen wrote about her husband after the first night of marriage. This man was the meaning of her existence. She loved Albert immensely. Fate has given them 21 years of happiness. Albert was born in 1819 in Germany. His father was Duke Ernst of Saxe-Coburg-Gotha. Interestingly, the same midwife helped both Albert's mother and Victoria's mother in childbirth just 3 months later. It turns out that this couple was connected from the very beginning of their lives. The young prince had an older brother, but his childhood was overshadowed by his parents' divorce. When he was only 5 years old, his mother, Louise, separated from her father and married her lover, and since then the boy has never seen his mother again. His father, in turn, soon remarried. Albert received an excellent education and successfully graduated from the University of Bonn. The prince was a skilled athlete, owned fencing, was fond of equestrian sports, and showed talent in music, drawing, and even wrote poetry. His appearance was attractive from a young age, and his kind nature gave him a special appeal. The young prince first met the heir to the British throne, Victoria, in 1836. They were cousins, since Albert's father was Victoria's mother's brother. Interestingly, the Belgian King Leopold, the uncle of the princess, had long dreamed of the marriage of this couple and organized the invitation of German princes to England. At that moment, 17-year-old Victoria was fascinated by her younger brother. In her diary, she described Albert as an extremely handsome young man with hair the same color as hers, big blue eyes, a beautiful nose, and a very cute mouth with good teeth. But her real charm came from the expression on his face, which she found most adorable. This was the beginning of their amazing love story. Albert began to look at his cousin with sympathy, despite the fact that she was not considered a beauty. But at that time, there were no marriage arrangements between them. However, in 1837, after the death of King William, Victoria inherited the British throne and could not remain unmarried for long. Her relatives have stepped up the search for a suitable groom, but the young 20-year-old queen has not forgotten about her cousin, the prince. In 1839, she invited Albert to England, and after several meetings and close communication, Victoria fell in love with Albert with full passion. On October 15, a touching scene took place when an excited girl herself proposed to Albert. According to the laws of that time, the prince did not have the right to offer his hand and heart to the ruling queen of the country, but Albert agreed, although he had little choice in this matter. In February 1840, a luxurious wedding took place, at which the bride appeared in a white dress and a wreath of orange blossom. This choice has created a fashion for white wedding dresses for brides all over the country. The couple's marriage was harmonious and strong, and although the prince had calmer feelings for his wife than she had for him, he always took care of his wife. Together, they managed to avoid scandals and infidelities. 2 months after the wedding, Victoria became pregnant, and during a trip to London, an attempt was made on them with shots from Crazy Oxford, but he failed to hit them. Despite the stress, the queen gave birth to a healthy daughter in November 1840. In marriage, the couple had only 9 children, 5 daughters and 4 sons. At the beginning of his stay in England, Albert had to face strong rejection from high society. English snobs arrogantly looked at him as a poor relative from a small German duchy, and the English Parliament rejected the idea of giving him the title of Prince Consort. This situation offended the proud and sensitive Albert, and he did not feel like a master in his own house. Only 17 years later, Victoria appointed her husband Prince Consort in 1857. Gradually, the prince managed to earn the respect of the government and the people. He became an advisor to his wife on matters of state administration, exerted a strong influence on Victoria, and it can be said that he was an unofficial king. Albert was known for his liberal views and active participation in the fight against slavery and child labor, and also supported technological progress. In 1842, there was another attempt on Victoria and Albert during their walk through the city, but a criminal named Francis missed and was detained. Albert successfully managed his family's finances, modernized the university education system and the army. Being an avid collector and fan of art, he supported the development of art. In 1851, Albert insisted on holding the World Industrial Exhibition in London, which ended with a great success. The prince was also a wonderful father and devoted a lot of time to his children, taking care of their upbringing and education. Unlike Victoria, who could not stand pregnancy and did not feel much affection for babies, Albert showed them tenderness and care. In addition, it is worth noting that the Queen was a carrier of hemophilia, a fatal genetic disease that she passed on to some of her children and descendants, including her granddaughter Alice, the future Russian Empress Alexandra Fyodorovna. Historians believe that it was Albert who established the rule that the royal family should remain out of politics. He also acquired the Scottish Balmoral estate, which became the family's favorite residence. The prince popularized the German custom of decorating a Christmas tree in the palace. Since the beginning of 1859, Albert began to have serious health problems. In particular, he suffered from a chronic stomach disease. The last years of his life were marked by frequent illnesses, and in 1861 the prince began to have typhoid fever, which led to his death on December 14. At that time, he was only 42 years old. The Queen was riddled with grief and did not take off mourning for her husband until the end of her life. She could not accept the loss of her sweet angel and ordered to take care of his rooms every day, as if Albert was still alive. Her grief was so deep that the courtiers feared for her sanity. Nothing could bring Victoria joy. She was estranged from society for several years and led a closed lifestyle. Despite this, she subsequently developed other interests. The Queen outlived her husband by 40 years and died in 1901 at the age of 81. In her will, she asked to put her husband's robe in her coffin, and she was buried next to Albert. The English throne was inherited by their eldest son, Edward VII.